Hey guys, Xenite here. So I was perusing Steam last night and I was just looking through the new releases and what's coming up, and just out of the corner of my eye I seen this and I was like, wait a minute, does that say what I think it says? So I kind of went back and sure enough it said Car Mechanics Simulator 2014. And I took a look at it and I was like, you know what, I got to try this out, and I got to show it to you guys on YouTube. So, Car Mechanic Simulator is basically what it sounds like. It is a simulator for being a car mechanic. So, we're going to go ahead and jump in here so you can kind of get an idea of what the game is and what you can do with it. Now, the game has two different play modes. One is a career mode and one is an endless mode. In the endless I haven't unlocked yet, but it is basically, I would assume, just that endless cycle of fixing cars, okay? The career mode actually starts out in a lower level kind of garage, and I guess you work your way up. I've been playing this for a decent amount of time, and I'm actually still in the low-level garage. I haven't figured out a lot of stuff yet, but it's just kind of a quirky, kind of fun game. It's not going to be for everybody. It's got issues, but I thought I'd show it to you. So we're going to go ahead and select the career mode here and jump in. Now the premise behind it is just basically people bring in their cars, you get a work order, and you fix the cars and send them on their way. And it's a little more in depth than that. There's a few more steps, and we'll go over those. So here is my garage. It's actually a lot cleaner than my actual garage, but it's okay. And there's not a lot you can interact with the garage. There are a few things. One is the radio. You can switch it to a few different radio stations. It has a little bit of variation in the music. It's mostly instrumental kind of stuff. I turned it off because this, after a while, just kind of started getting old, listening to the same things over and over again. And you have your computer over here, and on the computer, of course, you can order parts. It's pretty basic as far as you know, how to use it and everything. It's real easy to figure out. And they have a learning books where you can upgrade certain things, like how much the parts will cost you. You know, how fast can you unbolt stuff. Yeah, if only there was a book for that, then all our lives could be complete. So very easy. It's a very simple interface. It's simple to figure out. And the really only other thing you can, well, there are two more things. One is the workbench, and you can actually repair certain car parts with the workbench, and you'll often find that's a lot cheaper than actually buying them new. So it's worth kind of keeping tabs on that. And the other thing here is your car lift, which makes your car lift. Ooh, exciting, huh? So we'll go ahead and let that back down. And we'll take a look at the work order we have here. And it says, check the exhaust. I hit something hard on a bumpy road and I assume that one of the exhaust pipes is broken. Examine it, please. Okay, so he hit something on a bumpy road. Hopefully it wasn't a person. So to examine that, well, you know, before we do that, there is one other thing that you can do in this game. And often, sometimes it requires you to do it. I really don't see any reason for doing it because you don't really glean or learn anything from actually doing it, and that is actually test driving the vehicles. And I'll show you what that's like real quick here. So sometimes it'll ask you to test drive the vehicle, and it takes you to a test track. What mechanic in a garage like that has his own test track, I don't know, but there you go. We're going to switch out here because I hate trying to drive on the PC in first person like that. And the test track is always the same. It doesn't matter what car is being brought in. It's the same requirements. So, and I'm not very good at driving on the PC with the mouse and keyboard, but there you go. Hey, I'm living in California. This is how we drive on the freeway, so it's no big deal. You know, the only thing missing is somebody with road rage shooting at you, and it's just like being on a SoCal freeway. So this is basically this, and it's nothing. You don't actually learn anything like what's wrong with the car. It's kind of a weird little. It's kind of a weird little addition, to be honest, because there really is no point to it. you don't learn anything like what's wrong with the car. You can't glean anything from like that. It's just like kind of an extra step they threw in there, and you don't always have to do it. And in fact, the majority of the time you don't have to do that. So once you actually go to fixing the car, now we know this is the exhaust, so we're going to have to put this up on the lift here. And we're going to basically take a look at the exhaust here. Click on the undercarriage. Go to inspection. And then we click on the parts and we click on them, and it basically will show the quality of the part. So these two so far are okay. Check this one out. That one's okay. Check this one out. That one is not so good, 35%. That's going to need to be replaced. That one's okay though, and that one's okay. And this is more in the upper until you get into the exhaust manifold. So I think the problem that we're going to need to replace here is this one. So we're going to back out of that. And then basically you have a disassemble and an assemble mode. The red is disassemble, the green is assemble. So we want the disassemble mode. And then we're going to click on the part we want to remove. And you basically just remove the bolts like such. You know, now there's not a lot to this game as far as in-depth. You're basically just removing parts, replacing them, and putting them back. This is the perfect game for all of you who have dreamt of living a life of unbolting stuff. So now this is the part we need to replace. It's the exhaust pipe middle. So let's go ahead and remove that. Now I'm not sure if that's something we can repair or need to order a new one. No repairable parts, so we cannot repair that. So we'll back out and go over to the parts center and whip up AutoZone.com, I suppose, or Napa. Depends on what part of the country you're in. So exhaust pipe, front, middle. Here we go. And because I've upgraded that a few times, I get a little bit of a discount on that. So we're going to go back in and put the new pipe on. Now I have noticed that the camera at times can be a bit quirky with this, and it's something that once you play it for a little while you get a little bit more used to it, but it can be a bit of a pain at times to kind of position it in the right area where you want to get it. So we're going to add the new pipe here. Going to bolt it down. Now, as far as is this an accurate simulation to actually repairing cars? Well, yes and no. You know, I'm not by any stretch of the means a professional mechanic, but I've done a lot of stuff with my own cars, from changing water pumps, alternators, things like that. And for the most part, it is, I would call it a somewhat accurate representation of what repairing these parts on the car actually is. Of course, it's a very simplified kind of generalization of what you're doing. I wish replacing shit on a car was this easy, and it's not. If it was, I think we would all be mechanics and we would have no need. Oops, for some reason that switched into disassemble. Actually, you know what? Is that the last one? I think, yeah, that was the last one. Okay, so that's done. We have replaced the muffler. Go ahead and let the car down now. We go back to the repair or order invoice, and as you can see, check the exhaust and it has been checked off. So now we can stamp this with repaired. And as the muffler cost us, I believe, $94, we made a profit of $106 for repairing that. And then you just click to the next order and it gives you a new order. And that's kind of the meat of the game. It's just repairing stuff. You get a lot of decent variation, at least in these first. I've done about 15 to 20 of them so far. Here's another example. Find and eliminate the cause. The faster I drive, the louder is this horrible noise. I also know that the lights on the dashboard are weaker. Okay, that's sounds like maybe a timing belt issue with the alternator and the battery and everything going on. So anyways, this is kind of basically the gist of the game. I'll go ahead and show you a few different parts of the car so you can kind of get an example of how in depth it goes with the different parts. Like if I was replacing the air filter here, I would basically, you know, remove these sections. I have to unbolt this. Of course, none of this is necessary for this particular repair, but I'm just trying to give you an example of how in depth it actually goes. And then, like, we remove the filter and we replace the filter and so on and so forth. And let's go ahead and back out here a little bit. The oil filter, for example, would be here. You remove the oil filter, you go into the bottom, you remove the oil plug to drain the oil if you're changing the oil. You can change the spark plugs on these, the exhaust manifold. It has mostly the basic parts of the engine. It's a little, I guess you would say, a little more simplified compared to some of the cars are nowadays, especially with the more advanced computer systems and whatnot. But you kind of do get a basic idea of where the parts are in a car, or at least most cars, and the basic functions of how our car works, I suppose. Go ahead and jump over on the side, move one of these tires, kind of give you an example here. So you can see it has, you know, your brake discs, and if we wanted to remove that, we'd have to take the calipers off here real quick. And you take your brake pads off. And then you can move in and remove things like your drive axles, your inner tie rods, your lower left links and stuff like that. So you do have, like I said, the most basic, really kind of everything you would expect from the basic kind of car parts. Basically everything you need in here to actually have a functioning car. The only thing I said you really don't have is the more kind of sophisticated computer systems that you tend to have. You know, things like wiring harnesses, stuff like that. You're not really repairing yet. You're replacing and repairing the major components of your average car. Now there is some things that I haven't actually got into yet, and I'm assuming they're the kind of the more advanced areas, and that is you can actually run diagnostics. Now most people, I don't know if you know this or not, but in most newer cars, in fact all newer cars, they have the little, I don't know the actual name, here they're calling them the OBD link, but mechanics have a little system that they can actually hook up under the dash, and the onboard computer will actually spit out any error codes that they have, which is a great and easy way for a mechanic to tell, hey, the computer, or the car's computer is telling me that the alternator is bad, or there's bad spark plugs, or whatever it may be. It makes life for mechanics a lot easier. So the game does have a bit of that system in it. The cars I fixed so far, which I said it's been about 15 or 20 of them, it's been more basic things like replacing filters, changing the timing belts, things of that nature. So I'm having a feeling that's going to become a more in-depth thing as the game goes on into the future. And now the game does have some quirks to it. Okay, first off, the camera at times can be very annoying. Sometimes you're not being able to get it in the right position that you want it. Sometimes you click on things and the camera will zoom in a direction that you didn't want it, and then you have to reposition it. As far as bugs go, I haven't really experienced any bugs except for one early on. It was like the second car I was fixing. I was removing one of the air filter parts, and for some reason when I went to put it back on, one of the bolts just would not screw in all the way, and I tried removing it again. I tried to putting it back on, and it just wouldn't reassemble, and I basically couldn't complete the car because of that. So I basically had to restart the mission, I guess you would call it, restart the order, I guess they call it, which you can do from the menu here. And the next time I did it, it worked fine. And that's the only real, I guess you'd say, kind of game-breaking bug I've had. Now, as you can see, the graphics, they're nothing, spectacular. Obviously, a lot of games coming out now have much better graphics than this. But by no means are they bad. I think they're very passable for what the game is. Um, the garage for the most part is moderately to nicely detailed. The only area that I would consider as kind of just really bad looking is that test drive area. But again, you're not going to be spending a lot of time there. You're not going to be doing a lot there. So, I think it's a cute little game. It's going to have one of those things where if you're not into this kind of stuff, it's just going to become kind of a repetitive, tedious thing to some people. But if you kind of like this thing, and I don't know why, but I've always been kind of a bit of a dork for these kind of procedural simulation kind of games. I've I've played things like Bridge Simulator and Agricultural Simulator, and there's some really bad ones out there because they tend to be low budget games. But this is actually a fairly decent one. They've done some fun stuff with it, and this is the kind of game where I will load it up and do an order or two, play for like 25 minutes or so, and then just jump out of it and just have a little bit of fun with it here and then. If that sounds like it's something that you enjoy, I think you would probably like this. And there is, like I said, some progression in it with getting newer garages. I don't specifically know how exactly that works yet because I have been doing this for a while and I haven't progressed yet, so apparently that's going to take some time. There is a couple other small, I guess you'd say, quirks with the game I would like to see them address, just because I think it would have improved the game a lot, and that is that you don't necessarily always understand the order as far as what you're supposed to be doing. And what I mean by that is we'll go to the system here, and when you start the game and you get these orders in to repair these cars, now obviously you can go to the part shop and order the parts, and they're brand new parts and they're a little more expensive. Now here they have a used car parts section, which obviously the parts are used, so they're not going to be as high quality durability, but they're cheaper. However, in my early testing experience, basically if you use some of these parts, you couldn't complete the job. You had to have new parts in there. And there's really no explanation or kind of tutorial that tells you, hey, you have to use these parts. Now, I'm assuming maybe the used parts comes in at a later stage with a person and puts on the order, hey, I don't have a lot of money to repair this, can you just get something used or something? Maybe that's when it comes in. I think they could have done a little bit better with instructing the player on the different sections of how to use used parts, how to repair parts, when do you want to repair them, why would you want to repair them instead of putting new or used ones in. Things like that they could have done better. But that's really my only real complaint so far. Like I said, I think it's a cute little game. You could have some fun with it. It's good in short bursts. And if you like this kind of thing, I think by and large it's done a lot better than some of the other simulator games out there. There's some really bad low budget ones, and this is actually pretty decent. The price I believe was $15 or like $14.99, something like that. So it's not too pricey. You could always wait and pick it up on a Steam sale probably for a lot cheaper. But I just thought it was a cute little game, and it's very quirky, and it's something that you might be able to have some fun with. So I just wanted to show it to you guys and give you an idea of what to expect if you did see it and are interested in buying it. So that's it, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.